Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today with The Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt. Now, the footage you guys are seeing is on the Xbox One. I want to go ahead and make that clear, but I'm here today to give you guys my first impressions. I've spent about 3-4 hours playing the game last night. Even though I was completely exhausted and ready to go to bed, I did not want to put this game down. As you're going to see from a lot of the footage here, it is one of the most stunning RPGs I've ever played, not just from a visual standpoint, but from a gameplay standpoint, an audio standpoint. I mean, CD Projekt just nailed it. This is, to me, already one of the best role-playing games I've ever had the opportunity of experiencing. It's easily, my game of the year. I don't know that anything else is going to come out this year that is going to be this special. And one of the first things that The Witcher 3 did for me, about an hour into the game, is it overwhelms me. And for me, that's a personality trait that I have with games. When a game overwhelms me, that's a good thing. That means that there is so much stuff that I personally want to do. Not that I can do, because a lot of games can throw things at you and say, hey, look at all this stuff you can do. The Watch Dogs was a huge example of that. Look at all these mini games. And I was just like, but I don't care about like 90% of this stuff. So I didn't feel overwhelmed. It was just all there. However, just about everything that I've been introduced to inside of The Witcher 3, I'm like, I want to do that. Like, I want to understand how crafting works. I want to make this weapon. I want to make this gear. I want to hunt these monsters. I want to explore this zone. I want to explore this area. I want to explore this cave. I want to go all these undiscovered locations. There's so much I need to do. I want it all. And then I become overwhelmed, and that's a good thing. I think the last role-playing game to genuinely do that for me was Skyrim, and before that, the Fallout series and Oblivion. Not many games can do that, so they've done something right there for me. But the first thing that I noticed when I started playing The Witcher 3 and I was allowed to actually get on my horse and start to ride is the environments. And you're gonna see that right now. And if you're playing the game, it's probably one of the first things you notice is just, wow. Like, where does CD Projekt Red get their environmental artists from? Is there a place in heaven where they have game designers that can be, trained and brought down? Because honestly, I've never experienced a world that has felt more organic and natural. Like, it feels like these are real places that they just kind of photocopied. That's often a big pet peeve that I have with RPGs, Western RPGs and Japanese RPGs, or even worse, is that the environments never feel real. Even Skyrim, great game, right? But it just feels man-made. It feels like it was made on a computer. There's an obvious distinction between that. Just small details throw off the world design. They prevent it from feeling real. It's not the case with The Witcher 3. The environments are outstandingly well crafted. The forests are forests, the roads are roads, the villages are villages, and it's all connected in this wonderful way, and they feel like actual places that I could go and visit in real life. That's a feat in itself, something that I think a lot of people will overlook, but it has completely blown me away. It's encouraged me to roleplay when I play this game. When I go into a town, I do a slow trot on my horse, I dodge the civilians, I walk very slowly. When I'm out in the open, I follow the paths, and I just kind of look around and take it all in, and look into the distance for monsters or hidden treasures or locations that might spike my interest. And you can do all of that. You can go off the beaten path. I mean, often there'll be enemies ready to strike you down, but if you're willing to fight them, if you're willing to gather the supplies and the resources and the knowledge to defeat them, you can, and you're often rewarded for that. Just for an example, early on in the game, you run into a place of power. There's a wraith there. The Wraith pretty much will kick your ass. You could probably fight it. However, I decided, let's go do the story, level up a little bit. I'll come back, and then I'll kick the Wraith's ass. And that's just what I did. And that same thing continues throughout the game. The point that I'm in right now in the game, there's a bear. There's a bear running around this cabin that I'm in for one of these side quests, and he's huge. I've never seen a more terrifying bear in my entire life, but that's The Witcher, This is a living, breathing world. There are not just monsters, there are normal creatures, there are bandits and deserters and other enemies, all with their own agenda. And Geralt's just kind of stuck in the middle of all of it, but that's really special. Now, apart from the environmental design, the combat has been completely revamped, right? It's far superior to what was offered in The Witcher 2, and a lot of that has to do with the new animation systems. Everything just feels more fluid. Combat feels more fluid. Geralt looks amazing when he's engaging in combat. When he's parrying and dodging and, doing counterattacks, it's all so well done. It feels so fluid. At the same time, the combat is probably one of the most difficult things in the game to learn apart from the crafting system, which has been updated. It really is. Now, the game offers multiple difficulty settings. I'm playing on the second hardest difficulty setting, so there's only one more difficulty setting above me, and it's not easy. You have to be well prepared. You have to make sure that, to be frank, that your level is at a reasonable place. Otherwise, you're going to have a really hard time. And engaging in multiple enemies, things start to become even more difficult, because now you're not just dodging and, you know, rolling away from 1 or 2 enemies. You've got 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 even at some times. It's not an easy thing to get comfortable with. But that shouldn't steer away people who are just looking for the story and the RPG experience. There are easier difficulty settings. There's one that's even specifically identified as being made to tell you the story. You know, you just want to experience the story in the world. You're still going to get all of the benefits that everyone else gets. You're going to be able to explore and find these new locations and, you know, see everything that the game has to offer. It's just not going to be as hardcore when it comes to combat. But if you're like me and you like that, that requirement, you know, that must prepare and to identify and to know your enemy, then you can do that. And the game has a really great bestiary. It gives you details about what chemicals, what potions, what sword types enemies are most susceptible to, so you can train. You can learn about your enemy before you go ahead and engage them. You know, you can stumble upon a wraith and you can encounter it for the first time, and Geralt's gonna, you know, he's gonna instantly recognize this creature from his training as a witcher. Then you can leave it. You can go somewhere else. You can look in your bestiary and you can say, okay, I can use flagration bombs, and you can grab those items and you can go back and you can engage that wraith with those items a better prepared man. That's a really fantastic thing to do in a game. They did it in The Witcher 2, but now that you have this open world in The Witcher 3, it just makes more sense. It works better, and it's almost more required on the harder difficulty settings, and that is wonderful. Now, of course, the entire time you're experiencing the combat and looking at these wonderful environments, you have the soundtrack, which is just a whole bunch of like epic readiness. You know, you have these nice calm mellow tones, and then when combat comes, you have the you know, you have that bit of epic music. It's well done in the game, and it's often used to help drive the experience and to inform the player of a certain situation that they might be about to encounter. You know, maybe you don't realize you're about to stumble into a cave with a werewolf. The music kind of helps you know that you're going someplace where things are about to get real. It's a big part of the experience. Now, some of the things that took me by surprise, right? Things that I didn't know about, because I really wanted to keep myself in the dark with The Witcher. I had known you were going to be able to use boats to sail across large bodies of water. I didn't know until just about a week ago that you were going to be able to swim underwater, and it was one of the first things I did in the game was find a lake and dive down and end up finding a sword. There was a treasure chest there. I mean, it's like, you can't ask for more when it comes to open world games and, you know, giving you an incentive to explore than to just allowing the player to find cool stuff in areas where they kind of feel like they should find cool stuff. And that whole system is also sort of mixed along with the undiscovered location system. So once you get to the second zone, you'll find out that there are all these question marks on the map. These are undiscovered locations that you can go explore. Once you even just walk up to them, they'll tell you what they are. They might be abandoned encampment. They might be an old cave or an old house that might have an enemy in it or some type of treasure to be found. There's a lot of reason to direct. Okay, I shouldn't say it that way. What they've done is they've directed the player to certain areas of the map with those questions marked. That being said, all of the stuff on the in-between, there's still stuff to be found there. It doesn't have to be a question mark to be a location worth visiting. Those are just more important areas of the map. It's similar to what Fallout did. Fallout's map, you know, there was a lot of locations that were preset on the map, but there was stuff in between that you could find and discover that was still worthwhile. That's exactly what they've done here in The Witcher 3. Now, in regards to story, I've played a bit of it. You know, it's not like I'm that far into the story. There's a lot to be told here, I imagine. But what I've played, it's more of The Witcher 2 for me in terms of what I wanted from the story. The characters are very well delivered. The dialogue is well done. I like the new decision-making options that you now have as Geralt. It really kind of helps you be your own Witcher. While you are playing as Geralt of Rivia, you can define who he is, what sort of man he is. You know, is he sort of just a bitter old Witcher? Is he somebody who's really focused on helping people, doing what Witchers originally did, which was fight monsters and protect humans, despite what the outside world now thinks of Witchers and the disgust and the fact that they essentially almost all spit on you as soon as you walk within 10 feet of them? You can kind of still decide how Geralt reacts to those situations. And I talked about this in the past when I was, we were getting ready for The Witcher 3, and I was saying, what did I really want from the characters most specifically? And that was that I wanted them all to feel alive and feel unique and memorable. And they've done that in The Witcher 3. Every character that you run into, that you interact with on a vocal level, you're gonna remember who they are. You're gonna remember their little quips and qualms, and you have a really great sense of what sort of personality they have. That's just special. That makes playing through the story and these side quests just so much more enjoyable. It is really something they've nailed on the head there. Now, if there was one thing that I had to say that was like big for me in The Witcher 3, it's the details, right? The Witcher 2 did this a bunch. One of my favorite things in the game, it was a really small focus, was once you killed a huge monster, for example, the like sort of Kraken that you killed early on in The Witcher 2, you had a shrunken version of its leg to carry around as a trophy on the side of Geralt's belt. And that gave you bonuses. Based on whatever the monster was, you got different bonuses. That system is here in The Witcher 3. Now, when you kill something like the Griffin, you guys are seeing that footage right now. Once you kill that Griffin, you get its head, and the head goes on your horse as a trophy. And you can swap those trophies out for different bonuses. Not to mention, your horse is like a whole nother extension of the game, right? It's not just a horse. You don't just ride around on the horse and throw some armor on it for $2.99. You actually get saddlebags that can help increase your inventory, because the idea is that Geralt isn't carrying around the 18 swords that you have in your inventory menu screen. No, the horse is carrying around the 18 swords you have in your inventory menu screen. And by increasing its inventory with saddlebags, you can carry more stuff. You can buy better saddles to increase its stamina regeneration. I mean, there's even horse blinds to help lower how the horse is affected by fear from other enemies in the environment. They've gone all out. They haven't just thrown a horse in the game. No, you're going to be on this horse all the time, they said. What ways can we make it work for the player? And I think a big part of that system has a lot to do with how you travel across the different locations, right? Not just in between the locations of the map, which frankly are rather large. There's not just one central location. It's much like Dragon Age Inquisition. You have multiple areas. However, unlike Dragon Age Inquisition, each of these areas is actually interesting and well designed, as I've already previously said. But I have to say that Velen, the second zone that you go to, is probably close to the size of Skyrim, so these are pretty big zones. They are just very well populated, and traveling amongst them is very simple. Now, there's a couple ways that you can travel in this game. The first one that a lot of people might initially seem attracted to is fast travel. Once you find a signpost, you can fast travel between any signpost, even between different zones. However, when you're on horseback and you're following a road, there are two sort of speeds that you can be at, well, three speeds. You can be at a slow trot just by pushing the left stick forward. You can start to hold A, in which case the horse will just start to do a slight gallop, or a canter as it's called. And as long as you hold down that A button and you don't touch your left stick, your horse will automatically follow the road. Now if you double tap A and go into a full gallop, and again don't touch the left stick, your horse will follow the road at a full speed and you will not drain your stamina. What better incentive for traveling across the map on horseback rather than fast traveling? I only fast travel between the zones. That's the only time I fast travel. Otherwise, I do not find myself often fast traveling. Maybe if I've forgotten some sort of a supply and I just got to an area where I know I'm going to fight a boss or a monster of some sort, I might fast travel. But in terms of progressing the story and finding new locations, horseback is the way to go. I mean, this is a world that is worth seeing. It's a world that is worth traveling through. Not just because of how gorgeous it is, because of the opportunity to find unique locations along the way. A lake that might be worth diving in, or a forest that might be worth walking just a little further in to find that awesome, cave or treasure or hidden forest or cabin or whatever it is. There's just always something to find. They've done a bang-up job with that. They really genuinely have. Now, if there's anything else I really could talk about, it's all of the systems and how they've been improved. The inventory is better than ever. It's not nearly as messy as it used to be. Alchemy works better now. There's huge incentive for alchemy. Potions are more powerful than they ever were in The Witcher 2. And you also, of course, have your whole character system. There's a new tree system. Basically, you unlock points, you then use those points to unlock perks, and the perks only have so many slots based on your level, so you have to decide which perks you're going to actually use at any given time. The cool thing is you can swap those out. They're not locked in, so maybe one situation might be better for another perk than another situation. You can swap them in and out. It's a really adaptable system, and it's the first time I've ever seen anything like that in RPGs, especially a Western RPG. You know, I think if Skyrim did something like that, that'd be ingenious. you know, the ability to actually swap out these perks. It's kind of what Shadow of Mordor does in some ways, I guess you could say. Either way, a great system. All of that's just been improved massively. I mean, I really like what they've done with it. Not to mention that consumables like potions and food and water now, which can be used to regenerate your health, and of course potions to give you certain buffs, they're no longer consumed through the meditation process. I have to say I was a big advocate of that in Witcher 2. I liked it while a lot of people hated it, but now that it's gone, I don't really miss it that much, especially considering how much more you have to worry about when engaging in combat. There's just other things that I can be concerned with. The last thing I need to worry about is the fact that I had to consume all these potions before I went into combat. That being said, the toxicity levels are still something you have to worry about, so while it's easier to just start chugging away at potions, it's also even more easy to overdo your toxicity level and start to drain your vitality in combat, which is the last thing you want to do when you're fighting something like, say, a griffin. Whew. I'm sure there's a lot more in The Witcher 3 that's going to continue to surprise me. It's a huge game. It'd be ridiculous to play it all before I gave you guys my first impressions, and I felt completely unnecessary because the game has just already shown me so much that I've fallen in love with, and very little that I haven't liked. I'm honestly at a struggle to find things that have frustrated me. I guess if I would say anything, it's that Geralt doesn't really have a base of operation. I would have liked to see some sort of a camping system. I know that's probably crazy, but honestly, the ability to camp out in the wilds to regenerate health and things of that nature, I feel like that would have been a really cool system, and it would have just kind of made sense in this game. But it is what it is. That's really it. I mean, final words for those of you guys watching this who haven't played it or don't, you know, for whatever reason aren't picking it up. Do yourself a favor, buy this game. This will be one of the best RPGs you've played in the last 10 years. I'm more than happy to say that because I'm already so enamored with the experience. It's just, I can't put it down. Like I said, man, I was falling asleep in my chair last night. I finally went to bed when I had fallen asleep and realized that I was standing in the middle of a forest on my horse, not playing because I had fallen asleep in my chair. I haven't fallen asleep in my chair since Fallout 3. It's been a long time, so you know, I mean, what better tagline do you need? I mean, CD Projekt Red should probably contact me and put that on their box. So good, you'll probably fall asleep in your gaming chair. I mean, what better way to represent how awesome your experience is? If you guys have any other questions for me regarding The Witcher 3 or anything that you saw on this video, as always, feel free to throw them in the comment section below. If you're playing this game, let me know what you think of it. What has really blown you away the most? What do you love? What do you hate? Let me know all that and more down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next one.
Move it!